Hey everyone, welcome to the show. Russ, what's going on?
So the New York Mets lost Jacob deGrom, who many regard as best pitcher in baseball, age of 34, and they didn't want to give him the money that the Astros did. The Astros contract goes up to $222 million, but it's at least like $185 that's guaranteed.
Rangers.
I get that. The Rangers. Didn't I say the Rangers?
You said Astros.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Texas Rangers. Look, I get it. You don't want to give him the money, don't give him the money. But don't bitch about him on the way out. Like all of a sudden the games that he was missing was hurting the club or this and that. We all know that he's, had injuries the last few years, but when he's been out there, he's been great and he pitched in the playoffs. So I just don't like people that decide, even though he was one of your 4 best pitchers of all time, you're going to now kick him on the way out. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
I was gonna say, it's like I told Russ, I was listening to New York radio. It was on my phone on Saturday morning, and one of the morning sports talk show hosts referred to deGrom going to baseball Siberia when it came to Texas. And I think that's an apt description, because that's where players usually go to die, in the sense that, they'll pay you $35 million, but your games are never going to mean anything. I don't blame deGrom for going and taking the money. He's had injuries and he gets the $5 million. Yeah, but apparently the Mets had offered him, I think, 3 years at $40 million, the same deal that Scherzer did. So he took the money. Right. I think the only thing that you could say in terms of assassinating his character is that he didn't give the Mets a chance to meet it. But I don't think they were going to meet that contract.
They weren't, and I think the agent knew that. So they're like, why bother having that conversation? End of the day, he did sign a secondary contract with the Mets. He did help him get him to the playoffs again. Hey, they didn't win a World Series. He did pitch in a World Series in his time with the Mets. All right, so you leave that alone. Last thing, though, so the Mets do have a GM that has said repeatedly since he was hired, and you'll like this, Eck, because this will sound a lot like another GM, that, hey, we're going to, build up so we could be good for a lot of years, and we're going to bring in a lot of young people, and this is how the team's going to go. And so based on that, the Mets just signed a 40-year-old pitcher to a 2-year contract. So now in Justin Verlander. Now, the guy's a Hall of Famer. I get it. Met fans should know, though, they've had a lot of pitchers at the end of their rope. I don't think he's at the end of his rope, but he's certainly not the same. He's a very good pitcher. But the problem is now they've got a guy who's 39, Max Scherzer, 40, Justin Verlander, at the top of a rotation. That's not the way you want to do it. And I really do have to question the GM now with trying to say that they're going to, try and be good for a long period of time when they just have this 2-year window now, that they close themselves into a 2-year window here.
But Russ, their GM, who was an assistant GM in Anaheim and an assistant GM under Brian Cashman, stole Cashman's line. Cashman has always said, we're not interested in winning a championship. We're interested in winning championships. Well, Brian, you haven't won one since 2009, so shut the bleep up.
Right. And Billy is like, not only haven't won one, but most of your money is tied up into older players. What are you doing?
Well, I mean, what he should be doing is developing youngsters while he has these 2 pitchers. So in 3 years, when they're both retired, they'll have somebody to come in and replace.
They're doing that to some degree. But as an example, for a former Philly who's not very good anymore, Darren Ruff, they traded 3 guys. So
this pitcher that went to Texas, is he married, has kids?
Yeah, he's married, has kids. He does live down there, but again. That's
where his kids live right now.
I believe
moving. Yeah.
Moving. So they've always lived in New York, but they probably have wanted to live down there. That's probably
But I think that's got to be a big thing. I mean, like that's when you're talking about the different when you're already making that kind of money, like I'm like saying, like if his kids are like entrenched into like the Connecticut school system, something like that, I think it would be lousy to do that. But I mean,
but here's where Major League Baseball and hockey, they intersect. And I don't, people say, well, the guy is making $30 million, so this doesn't matter. It matters. The agents make it matter, and their accountants and everything make it matter. Texas is a non-state tax state.
Yeah, so he can build like a Rooseveltian type dynasty.
Yes.
I mean, who needs that kind of money, Mike? I mean, we're looking at like I don't know.
It's sometimes it's not about how much in terms of cumulative. It's about, okay, I'm the best pitcher in the league, so I deserve to make the most.
Right.
What is longest?
It is really about that. It's his last shot at a big deal act because he's 34 and he only got the one big deal. Baseball players are greedy that way.
How much less would the Mets have given him?
What's what?
How much less were the Mets? Were the Mets offering a lot less, do you think?
No, 120 million for 3 years as opposed to possibly 222 million for 6 years.
All right.
But the 6 years is a club option, so it's really 5 years.
At 188.
2 extra years.
I don't know. I mean, I do. There are hockey players, and maybe this is what's different in sports. There are hockey players who don't move for who don't change teams for that percentage of money, depending on, and it's like, and I mean, personally, I have been offered jobs, for more money than I make now, and but I would have had to have moved, and and would have had to abandon HockeyBuzz too. But I've gotten these offers from up in Canada, and I just don't do it. I don't think that you have to take your whole family in consideration too, and I don't know.
Well, again, it is a different sport. Baseball players are different than hockey players. You couldn't even. There's no way of even comparing them.
Right.
So average salaries are much higher. They're coddled a lot more. So
I'm not trying.
This is something that is not
like a couple $1,000s more. So they're 10, 20, $30 million more, but it probably means more to me than it does to them. So reality.
Here's an example, Ecto, how what they're doing is not the norm. I just got a text from my cousin saying, "Why don't the Mets get Sandy Koufax to be their third pitcher?"
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like this is, this is what's going on now. So
no, it's messed up. All right, let's. I don't know. I just find that I don't know. I respect the guys who don't do that sometimes. All right, here we go. Hello, Hockey World. It is Monday, December 5th, 2022.
I'm Michael Agello, and if you give me $38 million, I'm leaving HockeyBuzz.
Damn, I wish I had it. I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
I will not match that, Mike. And I'm Eklund. You're watching HockeyBuzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast that comes every Monday through Friday. I'll be wishing Mike well and saying good things about you. Anyway, we're the podcast that comes every Monday through Friday talking about the comings and goings in the hockey world. And where do we start today? I think we have to start today with a little bit on the rumor mill because something I was chasing this morning. I have a really cool story I was working on this morning that I'm going to put off till Wednesday. We'll talk about that later. But come on, Gary. I'm going to say this. Geez, you made me lose my track of thought. Okay, Brock Besser. Thank you. Brock Besser's agent has been told that he can look and talk to other teams about possibility. Now, this is really funny to me, and I'll tell you why. This happens all the time. This is not. It's funny that it's being mentioned because, and don't think for a second that agents have to have the approval to do this either. Like agents can, if you're talking about a trade, if you're talking about a new contract, one thing, but if you're talking about a trade, agents do talk to other teams all the time, and other, about other things. They can say, man, so and so would really probably work well. What would you think of so and so on your team? And they're like, oh yeah, these kind of discussions. This is an agent's job to do this. The agent's job is to know what teams like the player, even if he's not there. Even if he's not on those teams. So it's a little bit strange to me that this is that this got out. When it gets out, it usually means one thing. It usually means that Vancouver really wants to make it happen. So they're putting it out there.
They're trying to drum up business.
Right. They're trying to get more people to call, and they're saying call the agent or whatever. We're called the team, but agents have made some of the best trades in NHL history, to be honest. Straight up. I mean, they have actually straight up made the trades that have been good for both teams, and I'm always surprised, but agents flat out will make the entire deal sometimes.
Well, Pat Brisson certainly has done that.
Yeah.
The thing, and I just heard Elliot Friedman talk about this on his spot on Toronto radio, and he talked about it on Saturday as well. Besser's had some personal tragedy, his father passing away. It's really affected him. But they just signed him to a 3-year deal, and we know he's a good player, but it's essentially like a change of scenery type of thing. And Friedman said that Vancouver would be willing to take less to facilitate a deal, but they're not going to give him away, obviously. And the whole issue here is he's got 2 more years at $6.6 million.
Yeah, right.
Now, there are teams out there that need scoring. That's always a valuable commodity. But I don't know, with everything being as tight as it is right now, whether teams, because remember, you can't retain salary for 1 year. I wish the NHL would adopt this. You could retain salary on a contract for 1 year.
Yeah.
When the contract is, like if it's a deal like this, he's got 2 more years at 6.6, and Minnesota might be able to finish, or another team might be able to fit that in for 2 years, but right now they can't. So you could retain for 1 year, but they don't do it that way. So
yeah.
I like Minnesota apparently is looking for scoring, and he's from Minnesota, so that is going to be out there. But you had another place.
And this is a team that has always been rumored with them. But there was never like and this summer when it looked like Malkin could go somewhere else, it was again popped up, and that is Pittsburgh. The question here would be, I guess this would be the kind of thing that if Letang is LTIR, and if he's gone, if he's done, he's done, then Pittsburgh can go someplace. And would they go to another defenseman? They might, but at the same time, they might not, I was told, because they actually do really like Brock Besser, and they see him as like as a powerhouse. And I think I don't know the relationship he and Crosby have from somewhere, but I was told that Crosby's a huge Besser fan. So I'm not sure quite where that comes from. I was trying to figure it out today, just like from looking at places they might play together.
Maybe the same agent.
Maybe the same agent, maybe an all-star game. I don't know. I couldn't figure out. Like maybe they apparently just got along really well, and I couldn't find anything directly though. But I was told from the person I talked to that Crosby loves Besser, right? I'm like, no, I didn't know that. So
yeah, I didn't know that either.
So that's an interesting one, I think, because what Pittsburgh's going to do here, in the wake of this Letang situation, it's too soon to say right now because no one's, we don't know.
Not the same agent. Well, this is the thing, and because when I saw you, your speculation on Pittsburgh, one thing that might tie the two together, obviously, Jim Rutherford being the president of the Canucks and former president of the Penguins.
Yeah,
there is a player who reportedly is on the outs in Pittsburgh that they're talking about trading, who makes significant money, around a little over $3 million, and that's Kasperi Kapanen. Potentially, if there is a deal between the two, I could see Kapanen being part of it, but it's got to have to be more than that because Kapanen at best is a third-line guy who scores 20 goals, and Besser's a top 6 guy who could score 40 or 45 with the right center.
Yeah, and I would almost think another team would have to get involved because you would have to think in this situation that, Vancouver really, if they're smart, this is just speculation, but they're going to get a defenseman out of this deal if they make this deal. This has to be. I think Vancouver needs a defenseman more than anything. And that's where I think that they would go with it. They would have to get a pretty good defenseman out of the Besser deal, I would think.
Yeah, but with Letang out, the last
they don't have anything.
Yeah, right, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. This is another thing that makes this deal kind of curious to me. I'm again just reporting the rumor. But
yeah.
The idea is, Pittsburgh. Maybe that's why I said maybe a third team gets involved or something like that. Maybe there's a defenseman.
Montreal with David Savard or
something like that. Yeah, that would be a good. Savard would be a good. That's a good name. That actually I've already heard Vancouver interested in. So that's a really good name. Somehow maybe that happens and Montreal takes on salary or something like that. Maybe in the deal.
I think what the bigger story with this one, Eck, is the total dysfunction of the Vancouver Canucks. Because honestly, instead of re-signing Besser, they would have got more for him had they just traded him before they re-signed him.
Right. Yeah. They've signed 2 players before the season or during the season that now that they're in the particular position, maybe they regret, not because they're not performing well, but okay, the guy who's performing best is Bo Horvat. You didn't sign him, and now you probably are going to lose him unless you pay him, but then you don't want to pay him because you have to pay Pettersson in a year. That's the thing. It's like they're spending money that they really don't have.
It's total dysfunction. It really is. And, unfortunately, it's not Bruce Boudreau's fault, right? But fans will blame him somehow. But again, the front office there, if you don't think Jim Rutherford has a hand in it, Patrick Alvin is the GM.
This morning.
That's been named. I don't know what that's from. It's not from mine. Maybe it was. I don't know. I was on NHL.com for a minute. Who knows? Anyhow, if you think that
it's cap friendly, I have to ask them, that people at cap friendly, stop putting a stupid home ad on your every page that you open.
Yeah.
Say what you want about HockeyBuzz. We don't do that.
Well, yeah, that's a big thing actually for intrusion.
We don't do it.
HockeyBuzz doesn't do that, but no. At the end of the day, I mean, this is Jim Rutherford all over it. I know that Jim Rutherford pulls strings still in that front office, and now Patrick Albion, he's the GM, but he's still got to talk to Rutherford.
I'm going to go deeper than that, Russ. Okay, because you're dead on right about this, but I am also hearing there's a huge divide in the front office in Vancouver right now that's going on. You may have heard about this too as well, but it's like it's very obvious now that Rutherford did not want Bruce Boudreau back. Like that's what I keep hearing everywhere, and he felt like he was kind of bullied into it. Like it felt like it was he did so well last year. He wanted to go a different direction with the team, but Boudreau did well, and he had the owners who have a huge play in what happens in Vancouver, and always have.
To the detriment of that franchise. The
detriment of the Canucks on many occasions. And I've heard that Rutherford's just really ticked off about it, and that that this is and it was ticked off about it before the season even began. Like I was hearing things about this. Like you remember how long it took Boudreau to sign. We kind of thought it would sign quickly. We kind of thought it would get done because he was so successful. He didn't just sign. It wasn't like an immediate thing, like just instantly. So I mean, I'm not even blaming Boudreau for this. I'm just saying that there's definitely some kind of disconnect there.
Well, I mean, you can take it even further than that because, and we won't go into the details of it, but the whole Rachel Doerrie situation in Vancouver who got fired, and then it came out in regards to the litigation that's going on that she was undercut by somebody in the organization. And I mean, this is an organization that was just cobbled together in the last 7 or 8 months. So the dysfunction that's there is a little surprising.
Yeah, there's a lot going on there. We'll just say that.
Oh yeah, no, there's a ton going on, and they have the talent. They show it all the time. They show it, and they really have become one of these, like they probably the biggest, maybe the biggest mess in the Western Conference. And there are rumors now that
you couldn't have expected much out of. So I think that's fair to say.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and Boudreau. There's rumors now that Boudreau could be moved, could be fired. I mean, that's kind of crazy. I mean, but it could happen. I mean, that's like old time Ed Snyder stuff if that happens.
But at this point, doing that is not going to change their roster. It's not going to make Thatcher Demko any healthier.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like I don't know what that's going to do.
And the ironic thing here is like Elias Pettersson's having a great year. Like he's off to a great start. And yet people thought, if you thought Pettersson's going to have a great year, I would pretty much have said, okay, that's what Vancouver. If that happens, Vancouver's in. They're good. They're going to be good. They're going to be fine.
But again, you could have made the argument they should have given him a contract offer over the summer.
I know, and they went on a short-term offer, even before that. Right. So they've had, and it's because of this situation that they've had with Besser and on all the different contracts that we've talked about many times, and then Miller having to sign Miller. So really, what's happened here, at the end of the day, is they are definitely in a spot where you can see why they're entertaining this Besser trade. They're in this spot where they need to do something.
Yeah, it's up their own doing. Yeah. And if they want to, basically they're entertaining this deal because they want to keep Bo Horvat. But if they can't get a deal, they may not be able to keep Bo Horvat.
It's not just that, I don't think. And it reminds me of a situation of the Flyers years and years ago when Lindros was first there, and Recchi and Lindros were tearing it up. Like Recchi had like 150 some points or whatever. They were just having these great seasons, but the Flyers were terrible, and that's when they ended up making the Recchi for Leclerc and Desjardins trade, which at the time was a big deal because Recchi was still a great player. Leclerc was an up and coming player. Desjardins was a good defenseman. And that's the kind of thing that they could be looking at with Besser here, Besser's not at Recchi's level, but I think they could be looking at a trade that shakes it up because that trade really did turn the Flyers into a good team for a few years.
Well, I think it's greater than that because you can look at Besser making 6.6 and Horvat being a UFA at the end of the year and say, okay, they want to clear that 6.6 to give most of it or some of it to Horvat. But Pettersson is up the year after. He's making 7.3. He's, if you're talking about, and they, sometimes they don't play Miller at center, they play him on the wing. But if you're talking about a 1-2 punch up the middle and it's Pettersson and Horvat, you're probably, Pedersen's probably going to make, Matt Barzal money. He'll probably be making $9 million. So, it depends on how much Horvat wants. And he's in a great bargaining position because he's got 18 goals. So Vancouver is in the position of these teams where they're paying, their core 3 or 4,
right.
30, 35, 40 million bucks. Everybody's going to be doing it. It's just like Toronto has been ahead of the curve in terms of paying that much for their core players.
Yeah, no, it's a really good point. I mean, they were ahead of the curve, but at a time when the cap was lower too.
And the cap going flat has killed them. So yeah.
That timing has definitely killed them. I mean, if they had known there was going to be a flat cap, you wonder how they would have gone. It was probably in a totally different way. Or probably not have gone, for Tavares, or who knows? That's the question. That's where it ends up coming down to, right?
Let's not go down that road again.
Yeah, no, we shouldn't go down that road. But a couple other quick things. And I have something kind of fun that I want to play with you guys. And I really want Russ's opinion because I think on this one, and not that your opinion doesn't matter, Mike. But I just
Mike's is just secondary.
Russ's, I'm just kidding, because there are some deep prospect things involved here.
Okay.
But
Mike's put it.
All right, Mike.
You're not hurting us with no picture.
Yes. Sorry, I just got that. All right, so here we go. All right, so let's okay, so first of all, the Anaheim Ducks. I want to talk about this for a second. The Anaheim Ducks are rumored to be changing their name. Have you heard this?
No.
Yes, this is out there. I've heard this a couple times now, that there is a push among Anaheim. There's been petitions among Anaheim fans that they
Let me guess.
the name.
The LA Ducks of Anaheim.
No, they want to get rid of the duck altogether. They want to get rid of the duck altogether, and they feel like the duck is stupid, and it's demeaning, and it's just like, so there's been a petition, and I thought that's just BS. They would. I don't really remember an NHL team ever.
Never called Daffy Duck stupid. I don't understand.
Yeah, I mean, and the Mighty Ducks movies were fun, but
Maybe.
And especially now, like the Mighty Duck movies are making there's a series now, right? I haven't seen it, but
Yeah, there is a series. I'll leave it at that.
Have you watched it?
No, I wouldn't. I don't watch the movies. They're garbage.
Yeah, you don't have kids. I had to watch the movies, so but yeah.
If I had kids, they would have better sense than.
No, if you have kids and you're in hockey, your kids will watch the Duck movies. They're fun. They're fun movies. But yeah, what are the thoughts of this? Like the concept of actually changing of an NHL. I can't remember an NHL. Has this happened for an NHL team change their name?
The Toronto St. Pat's to the Maple Leafs.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, right.
No, it definitely has happened.
That was a few years ago.
Yeah, I would say it like this. They're definitely known for being the Ducks, just the Ducks. And if they're gonna go like Anaheim, whatever, Wizards, Anaheim Bankers. I don't know what they're going to do. Anaheim Waves. I don't know what
it would be like. What's Anaheim known for? Anaheim beachfront property.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like Mike, this is not the section that I don't care about your opinion on. It's the next one. So you can take the tape off now.
The point is, if they're going to do like a whole rebrand, fine. Yeah. But I think they're going to lose a lot. And even if the Ducks isn't like what you would say is the classiest of names or whatever, it's still their identity. And when you go and try and change, just look what the Washington football team has gone through.
Commanders is a joke.
Oh, I hate
the Redskins. They don't have an identity anymore.
The Cleveland Guardians is a joke.
Yeah. I hate the Guardians. I hate the Commanders' names. I mean, just like,
But they came up with a better name. I may not be against them because I understand why the team's changed. I'm not against that.
Right. I'm not against that either. But it's not really careful. Indigenous species. We're talking about buoyant waterfowl. We're talking about like ducks.
Right.
And it's
you got to be very careful, like just to not rebrand for the sake of rebranding so you could sell more stuff.
And a team that did win a Stanley Cup too, and that is something that
that is something else too
that the NHL cares about. I've noticed that before. Like the NHL cares. The NHL does not like to move teams once they win a Stanley Cup either. That's another thing they've been really adamant about. Like that's Carolina. It was a big thing with Carolina a couple times. And the Islanders, they don't like to move teams that win Stanley Cups.
True.
And so changing the name of a team, would it hurt the Ducks? Is the Ducks a strong brand? I mean,
I think it's a brand recognition. I think considering they haven't been the best team in their existence, but have won a cup. I think a lot of people outside of the hockey world know who the Anaheim Ducks are because of Disney.
I mean, changing your name is not going to prevent the fact that right now you suck. I mean, right now they have young players. They're
for sure.
They're sort of scrambling around. Ducks have feelings too.
I agree, Steven, and I'm very sorry about that.
So, I mean, honestly, it's like, and I agree with Tony Soprano. Washington football team was a better name than the Washington Commanders. So now I'm not talking about the offensiveness of the previous name, but just Washington football team was sort of soccer-like, and I don't mind that. That was
it was like, yeah.
Don't you feel like, Mike, that other people, if you put it on Jeopardy and you say what sport are the Anaheim Ducks in, I think even people who are not sports fans would know it's hockey based on Disney and the movies and those things.
Right. I agree.
Yeah, I think they should have gone with, I think they should have stayed with Red something else, like Red Robins or something. Like Washington. Like I think because to me, like the Washington Red, like Red Robins or I don't know, Red something. I mean, Red would have been good.
Well, we know what we know the other red thing in Washington, but I don't want to talk about that.
Yeah, I was going to say the Washington Red Socialists. That would be
the Washington Red Army. Right.
But I think it's a mistake for Anaheim. No matter the name, I feel like they're going to lose recognition outside of the hockey world. That's my feeling.
Yeah. We're not Washington haters. We just don't like the name.
Right.
Yeah, I agree. I think outside the hockey world, I mean, there's, I don't know. I mean, when they changed from the Anaheim Mighty Ducks to the Anaheim Ducks.
That part I got because Mighty was like, all right, Yeah,
there's not many teams with adjectives in their names.
Right.
So I think that's true. I agree with that one. So, yeah, I think that, I agree with that. All right. So here's
the thing. This is what I always do, right? And this is what I do when I'm buying website names as well, URLs. So if you put in Anaheim Ducks, you get 17,900,000 results. The minute you put in that new name, a lot of those go away.
Absolutely, no, they do, and it's not like you can automatically.
We're in a Google world.
That's an interesting point. I never even think about that. You are in a Google world, and I mean that's a whole history of searches.
And just think of this: when the NBA moved a franchise from New Orleans to Salt Lake City, Utah, they kept the name. Even though Utah Jazz made absolutely no friggin' sense. Yeah. So the reason they did it was because of branding.
Correct.
Right. And then other times people have changed their names, obviously, like the Pelicans and different things. There have been names that have changed, but I do think, I mean, the Ducks definitely don't, in that market, the LA Kings is a much stronger brand, obviously, than the Anaheim Ducks.
But I was joking before, but I'm actually serious in the sense I'm surprised they're not just like the San Diego Chargers moved to LA and they changed it to LA Chargers and the Anaheim Angels who still play in Anaheim call themselves the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. I'm surprised they're not trying to glom onto the LA market. But they know they would be the second, behind the Kings.
But that's a fair point. That's something that's a good point you bring up.
Yeah.
I didn't realize the owner of the Ducks is actually from Buffalo. We'll leave that alone.
Samuelis anymore?
No, he is, and he's from Buffalo.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, it says. Does it say where in Buffalo? No, just Buffalo, New York. Born.
Buffalo, New York. There you go.
The cream rises to the top. What can I say?
But anyhow, no, but that is a very good point Mike makes is when you're based in LA, right, and you have that LA name, it's big. And that's the problem is no matter what you do, you're second fiddle to that name in that area. And the Angels have been going through this forever.
Yeah.
They've gone through a bunch of name changes. And the Ducks should look at that and say, none of them have helped the Angels. This is a bad idea. That should be their guy.
Right. I mean, Anaheim is a big city in and of itself. It's not it's not LA.
It doesn't have any cachet. It has Disneyland. That's it.
I mean, yeah, but if you're from there, they would be better off like going with like the Manhattan Beach Ducks or something.
Right.
That's where they all live. But or maybe they just need to go more specifically like the Anaheim Mallards or something like that. But maybe they're too general. Maybe that's what's confusing them. I mean, you can have cool uniforms with the Mallards, like cool colors. Anyway, moving on. I am working on a project right now that is a lot of fun, and a blog's gonna come out I think tomorrow on this. I almost had it ready for today, and I was trying to get it ready today for Kevin. Kevin's gonna be here Wednesday. He's traveling today, and that is a look at the 2026 Olympic teams between the USA and Canada. And my belief that the USA is much better. All right, so you can talk about this, right, Mike? No, you can talk about this, Mike. I definitely want to talk about this. But the interesting thing about this is this, to me. I mean, there are some really interesting positions, and before I go into the actual team, I just want to talk to you about the players that are now going that would be obvious Olympians, and like a guy like I'm going to say like Brad Marchand, Sidney Crosby. Okay, 4 years from now, are
I
they?
don't think Crosby will be there.
I mean, 3 years. It's basically 3 years from now when you think about it. Okay, so it's 3 years from now.
No Crosby.
Crosby contract is another.
Bergeron won't be there. Crosby won't be there.
Crosby, I think of all those guys, Crosby would be. I have it written down here. 37. I think
At best, he could be a Chris Drury-like fourth line center, which is hard to believe when it's Sidney Crosby. But I'm saying at that age, I can't imagine him being. You're going to have McKinnon as McDavid. He's
Connor Bedard.
right.
Probably Connor Bedard. Yeah, you're right.
Probably Connor Bedard. Yeah,
he'll be there. He'll be
there. I would think, right? So it's a crazy lineup when you go through it. But there are some older players like and
but
give me a second, guys, while I go get my list. I wrote it down upstairs. I'll be right back.
I feel like Crosby at that point.
Talk about Ms. Marchand and Crosby because I think those.
I feel like Crosby will be pretty beat up at that point.
Yeah, well, it's funny because I've heard people talk about this when it comes to Canada, and it's an area of great concern. Is their goaltending, and we're talking about 3 years down the line. Right now, based on how they're playing right now, the starting goaltender for Team Canada would be Carter Hart.
Yeah.
Carey Price is retired. You've got Kemper, you've got, Binnington. But in terms of guys who are performing the best, Mackenzie Blackwood was conceivably a candidate for, say, third string if the team was there in 2022. Their goaltending is not good. And, does 3 years from now, is Sebastian Cossa going to be good enough to play in the Olympics? Who knows?
All right. So that's a name I have on here, but, I'll turn my camera. So yeah, the goalie situation for Canada, you're right. And I did talk to somebody who I think
might end up being on that list.
I think he will be depending. I mean, you have to see how he does obviously, but Canada, when I talk to some people who I think will be, who knows going to be running Hockey Canada at that point, but talking to some people who could be part of that, they all seem to think Carter Hart would have a good shot at being on that team.
Yeah, I think he might be the starter.
Then they thought Cossa could be the backup.
Mm-hmm.
That was what I heard, and it is.
Obviously he'd have to have 1 or 2 good years in the NHL before that, and we don't know if he'll even make the Red Wings next year. I'm just saying, if you're talking about goaltenders in the pipeline, goalies who were first round picks who are projected to be, Northern in the chat says Matt Murray. Okay. Calm down. Matt Murray would have to stay healthy for 3 years. Right. If he stayed healthy, he'd be 32.
He definitely could be that. He could be there.
He could be, but he would have to stay healthy.
But if you compare Team Canada to the Russians with Vasilevsky, Shesterkin, and Sorokin to the Americans,
but only in goal.
I'm talking strictly about goal right now.
Yeah, right.
The Americans with Ottinger, Hellebuck, Demko.
That's it. That's all you have to know. That's good enough right there.
I think
Demko's injured right now. So
I would say it's Ottinger, Knight, and Demko.
Knight probably replaces Demko, to be honest.
It could be, yeah. Depending on.
But that's the thing; they have 4 guys to choose from.
Hellebuck, Ottinger, and Knight.
Yeah,
not bad.
No, that's really so. That some other guys are going to be older. Like JT Miller will only be 32. That's not a big deal.
No, he'll make it.
I'm talking about like some Americans. Patrick Kane will be 36.
Patrick Kane will probably be on that team because the U.S. doesn't know when to not play guys. But I think he'll be like just enough left to play.
Yeah, Pavelski.
Matthews and Eichel and Jack Hughes are your top 3 centers.
Yeah, those guys we'll get into it later. But I think what's interesting is to talk about some of these players, whether they should be considered. Eichel will be 29.
Yeah,
they'll be
in their prime. But Pavelski 40,
No, he's done.
defense, like John Carlson will be 35.
No,
I don't think they'll use him. They'll have so many to choose from. Adam Fox is the main guy.
Adam Fox, Werenski, Seth Jones,
McAvoy.
Like McDonough, McDonough's hurt now, but
McDonough probably won't be on it either.
I would guess not. And then as far as Canada's older guys, we've talked about Crosby at 37, Marchand at 36, Tavares at 34.
Yeah, Tavares will be on the team.
Yeah.
Marchand may be on the team. I can't tell you for sure because he's another guy that all of a sudden injuries could overtake. Yes, Jake Sanderson will be on that team.
I'll give you one of the reasons why Tavares will be on that team. Okay, he's had Olympic experience before, but Marner's going to be on that team, and they're a 1-2 combo right now that is not unstoppable, but very good. And Team Canada always likes the combos. Always if Crosby plays well with Chris Kunitz makes it.
That's the thing is, when the chat room brought up James Anderson, that's another American. So that's another reason why they have so many guys now for defense.
Defense.
30-something-year-old defenseman. There's no reason.
I'm going to give you my list of all the defensemen that I thought were possible, and then I'll do the actual thing on Wednesday. But it's a lot. Like Sanderson's on there, right? Adam Fox will be 26.
Trouba.
Carlson at 34. Quinn Hughes will be
the muscle. Yep.
Quinn Hughes will be 25.
He'll be on it.
Luke Hughes will be 22. I think he'll be on it.
Maybe.
He might be on it. Maybe.
Charlie McAvoy will be 27. He's older than that, but he's not. Gostisbehere will be 31.
He won't be on it.
Probably not. Seth Jones will be 30.
Yes.
Probably not.
No, I think so.
I think he'll make it.
I don't think so. I mean, if it's Trouba or Seth Jones, then I think they're going to take
Seth
Trouba.
Jones every day of the week over Trouba, actually.
Yeah, but it's different. You're playing a role. Trouba has the physical role down.
Trouba's a little bit older. Trouba will be 32. Werenski will be 27.
He'll make it.
Hey, Andre Miller will be 25.
He could make it, but probably won't.
Yeah. So that's a lot of, like you said,
that's a lot of defensemen, man.
We only got to come up with 6 defensemen out of that list. That's that's a ton. Now the forwards are really interesting. I'll lift all the forwards too. Gaudreau will be 31.
Yes.
Yeah, he'll make it.
I think he would still be there. Matthews 27. Kachuk 27. JT Miller 31.
Both Kachucks.
Yeah, the other Kachuk's younger. JT Miller 31.
Borderline.
Kyle Connor 28.
Yes.
Patrick Kane 36. Like I said, Jake Gensel 30.
No.
All right, Pavelski 40. I don't think so. But Jason Robertson 26.
Yes, he's a lock.
DeBrincat 27.
Yes.
Tage Thompson 27.
Yes.
Dylan Larkin 28.
Okay. Tage Thompson might be your 4th line center.
Right. I know. That's what I'm saying. Wait till you see this. Because we're going to compare line by line on the next.
But you didn't put Adam Fantilli in there, and he'll be 21.
Oh, I have Fantilli on here. I do.
Okay.
Actually, Fantilli is Canadian, isn't he?
No. Oh wait, no, he is. Sorry, he is Canadian.
Yeah, he's on my Canadian
list. That's right. I forget that. Yeah.
I forgot that too. It's funny. I have it right here, right? So if I can show you this, like Fantilli crossed out the U.S. thing because I checked it. I thought I put it.
No. Yeah. And actually, Kent Hughes also.
Right. Kreider at 33.
The Hughes from Columbus.
We have Kreider at 33.
Thank you.
Probably not Kreider, right? 33. Troy Terry 27.
Maddie. What about Matty Beniers?
He's coming up.
Beniers will be on.
Brady Tkachuk 25.
Yep.
Trevor Zegras 23. Jack Hughes 23.
Yep.
Josh Norris 25. Cole Caulfield 23. Joel Farabee 24.
I don't know if Zegras is making that team.
Yeah, I don't know either.
I'm not going out on a limb to say I think the U.S. are going to be significantly better than Team Canada.
That's where I'm going with this.
I do.
So we could keep it going. Farabee 24, Eichel 28.
Farabee won't make it.
No, I know. Beniers 23 and Boldy 24. So those are your.
Make it.
So those are my.
What about Jordan Greenway?
No,
I didn't put him on there. It's a good one.
No, I don't think he'll make it at that.
Chris
point.
Kreider.
I have him on here.
Kreider could.
He's 33. I said no. But maybe. I mean, so defense. I did the defense with these guys already. Now let's go to Canada's forwards, okay?
Yeah.
McDavid 27.
Yep.
Huberdeau 31.
Yep.
Marner 27.
Yep.
Yeah.
McKinnon 29.
Yep.
Reinhart 29.
Maybe.
Crosby 37.
4th line at best.
I think Crosby's on that team.
I don't know.
I think they'll leave it up to him. I think if he wants to go, he'll go.
I think he's Chris Drury. I think he's a fourth
Yeah.
line guy at 37 years
He
old.
wants to go, though. They won't tell him not to go. They won't. Marchand, 36.
No.
Robert Thomas, 25.
Yes.
Jordan Kyrou, 26.
Maybe.
Tavares, 34.
Yes.
Yeah.
Seth Jarvis, 24.
Maybe.
No. Maybe.
Shane Wright, 21.
Yes.
Maybe.
Mason McTavish, 22.
Maybe.
Chandler
That's
Stevenson, 30.
Who was that?
Chandler Stevenson, 30.
No.
No.
Nick Suzuki, 25.
Yes.
Yeah.
Pierre-Luc Dubois, 26.
Who was the last one?
Pierre-Luc Dubois, 26.
No, I don't think he'll be on it.
Matthew Barzal, 27.
Yes.
Yes.
Anthony DeClaire, 29.
No.
Braden Point, 28.
Yep.
Yes.
Andrew Mangiapane, 28.
No.
I'm going to go with you. I'm going to say no as well.
Wow.
Wow.
Big step for you.
For this team, come on.
From top 10 scoring to this? My
Mason
God.
Marshman, 29.
No.
I just have some players on. I think that could be interesting role players. Like I would look at Marshman. You know, I think he's on the up and what he could be the next 3 years. We'll see.
No.
Connor Brown, 30.
No.
Connor Bedard, 21.
Yes.
And Anthony Fantilli, 21.
Yes.
So,
But you didn't say Mark Stone, did you?
I
No.
didn't say Mark Stone. Jeez. Thank you. Yeah, that's kind of crazy.
Because he's going to make it. And as long as he's healthy.
He's definitely going to make it. All right, so now the defense. Ready?
Yeah.
But I also didn't play Lafreniere, by the way. He's on there.
I don't think he'll make it. I just can't put him on that arc yet.
Yeah, I didn't have him on that list, but
It's fair to say his name, but I just don't think he'll make it.
Yeah. Defense: Makar, 26.
Yes.
Powers, 21.
Yes.
Byram, 24.
Maybe.
Dobson,
Maybe.
25.
Yes.
Bouchard, 25.
No.
Maybe. Evan Bouchard, he might.
No.
Ekblad, 27.
Yes.
Taze, 30.
Devin Taves? No.
Tom
No.
Wilson, 30.
No.
I thought we were talking defense. Tom
Oh,
Wilson.
yeah, I might have put him on defense. I put him on defense. Yes, that's right. He should be on the other one. Sorry about that. I don't know why I have him there.
Darnell Nurse? Yes.
Yeah, Darnell Nurse, right?
Is definite.
Morgan Riley? Yes.
I don't know if Morgan Riley's yes. Morgan Riley's gonna be 31.
He'll probably be on there.
Shea Theodore, 30.
Good chance.
Alex Pietrangelo, 34.
That pair will make it. Will make it.
Pietrangelo will be on there, yeah.
Pietrangelo at 34 will make it, right?
That pair will make it.
Mackenzie Weegar will be 30.
No.
No.
Thomas Chabot will be 27.
Nope.
Nope.
Doug Hamilton.
Yes.
Maybe.
I didn't put his age on here, but and then Jacob Chikrin.
No.
Chikrin may not make it.
Because of injuries. Because of his
So-
injury history.
I mean, so yeah, I'll put together my exact teams, but when you look at this list, it is really interesting. Like there's a
I
lot
think
of
the U.S. is better overall. I think, it's no question in goal. And I think
No question.
the blue lines are comparable.
And I think they're much better up the middle and much better
Yeah, they're
forward.
better up the middle for sure. But Canada's going to have forwards that they're going to have to play, centers. Like, look, Connor Bedard gets listed as center. He's not playing in the NHL as a center. So they're going to have guys playing, the wing that could be centers.
Tavares will be playing left wing instead of center.
Yeah, I had Savard just as a hint. I had Bedard as my third line right wing.
Yeah.
You could very easily have a top line of Tavares, McKinnon, and Marner. Or Tavares, McDavid, and Marner.
I don't think Tavares is going to make this team.
Here's what I would say. I would say that Canada, Stamkos won't make it. I'm going to say Stamkos isn't making it.
Yeah.
Here's what I would say. I think like Canada and the media will run off of a lot of the name recognition and star power that their team will have, but I don't think that makes them better than the U.S. team.
Yeah.
Oh, Corinna's a good point. Caden Gooley could make it.
Yeah, he's playing fantastic right now.
He could, yeah. No, he's definitely a possibility.
He's physical and he's offensive too. So that's
it's hard to make this team.
But I'll draw the line at Arbor Jackeye making it.
Yeah. No, but it is hard. I agree. Somebody said Clayton Keller. I think Keller's going to get edged out. I do.
Yeah, I had him on here too, but I took him off. Just because the reason I have a guy like somebody when I had Marchman on there and not Keller, it's just like that Keller. There are too many players on the U.S. team that do what Keller does better than Keller.
Right. I think that's fair to say.
Even though Keller's very good, obviously.
But yeah, I think the U.S. will be a harder working, just as talented team and better in net. That's what I think is going on here.
Yeah. I mean, I think who knows who's going to be the starter, but in net they really have four goalies. If Demko's healthy, they really have four goalies, and he'll be healthy.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, one of them, may not be in good enough shape to make that Olympics.
And I'm not like the biggest Hellebuck fan, but I mean, depending on what we see of Ottinger and Spencer Knight, either one of those guys could rise up to be the starter. No.
Now, if Tristan Jarry gets hot from now to then, maybe he does help Canada.
That's another one, right? Yeah, that's another one too. That's a really good point too. Yeah, so I mean, I think that having done these things.
You don't want Markstrom on the in the Olympics because he can't play hockey, right? So they're not gonna use him in what is he, Swedish?
Yeah.
I said you don't want Markstrom to play for Team Sweden because he can't play hockey. He says
he can't play hockey anymore. He's not good at hockey now.
Right. Only if you want him to redo the a good imitation of Tommy Salo.
Right.
You need him to grout your tub though. He probably can do it really well, but he's not good at hockey.
No, he's not.
But he can make a damn good doghouse though. So yeah, it's of all these years of doing this, this is the first time that I looked at this list and just the initial eye test is Mike, you're right. Like Team USA, it's like this is a Team USA era that's coming up, and we've never seen. I can't ever remember going into Olympics where you could say that. Mike, why are you doing that? This is still not what he's doing. That still not what I didn't want you to talk about. All right, you're doing a great job. Just kidding around. No, but I think that is interesting, and Canada will have their work cut out for them. I think they're going to feel obligated. Like, so you think Patrick Kane's more likely to go than Sidney Crosby?
Yes, because Patrick Kane does not have the injury history that Sidney Crosby does, and there is going to be a day where the Sidney Crosby train just stops dead again.
But
I'll tell you,
Canada. This is Team Canada and Sidney Crosby.
But he's not so many more injuries. He could get one more concussion and never play hockey.
Oh, no, that's always true. That's true. No,
that's all I'm talking about. It's not about talent. It's about him winding down physically, and in 1 year just realizing, okay.
Where I'm going to be curious is, like, for example, and I know we're talking more USA and Canada. Everybody thinks that the Russians have the best goaltending, and they do. But they can only play one of them. And if you look at the rest of that team, okay, Ovechkin's going to be 38 at that point?
Right.
Malkin's going to be 37. I mean, Kuznetsov, I think his suspension still lasts until 2026 from international play. I mean, they're not up front and on defense. They're not going to be very good.
I'm going to tell you something.
The Finns might be better.
Team Germany will have Stützle. They'll still have what's his name from
Seider. They'll have Seider.
They'll have Draisaitl. They'll have Nico Dawes in net. They'll have a few defensemen. Like they actually could win a medal.
But the Swedes and the Finns will be better than the Russians.
So what's interesting is
I can't say that yet because if Michkov is on that team and
Kaprizov,
but also Miroshchenko, who the Capitals took last year, is doing.
Russ, who's their number one center? Kuznetsov, probably, right?
Yeah, but Miroshchenko is starting to do well. Michkov, I mean,
Kaprizov, I mean,
Sorokin, and they're going to have pretty good goalies.
Only play one goalie. That's what I'm saying. It's like
Kirill Kaprizov is definitely going to be a factor.
Yeah, Kaprizov's their number one guy.
He's their number one guy, I think. Yeah,
but he's not a center, is what I'm saying.
He's not a center, too. So an interesting thing about this that I really found fascinating was I tried to figure out like the amount of players from each country, going through this, and then the amount of points they're scored in the NHL by these things, just while I was doing this for fun. So this might be kind of fun to you guys. So like, obviously, what country has the most players in the NHL right now?
Canada.
It's still Canada, right, with 358. All right, and that number's been diminishing every year, of course, but how many Americans are there, do you think? 358. How many Americans?
Canada's 358?
Yep.
190.
What do you think, Russ?
Say it again. Sorry.
So Canada's 358 Canadians in the NHL. How many Americans?
Well, college hockey puts in so many. I'm going to say 225.
Pretty close. 233. Really close. So those are the top two. The third most popular country in hockey is Sweden, right?
Yeah.
What do you think their number is?
85.
Yeah.
You guys are pretty good. 91. Then
Finns.
Finns.
Nope. Actually, Russia.
Russia. Okay.
but with 49. So and
Wow, that's so few.
that's so few. Like Finland has 44.
Although, if we're going back to like the 80s, they'd be like, wow, that's a lot of Russians.
Yeah. I mean, there are more players from
Perspective.
Yeah, when you think about it, there's more play. Okay, there's as many players from the Czech Republic and Switzerland combined as there are Russians in the NHL.
Yeah.
If you combine the Czech Republic and Switzerland, which is like, that's not even like there's 33 Czechs and 11 Swiss. So, it's really
Actually, 11 Swiss is pretty good.
11 Swiss is pretty good. 7 Germans right
7
now.
Germans is really good. I mean,
It is.
considering they used to only be 1 or 2 every 5 years.
It is. Now, despite the fact that Russia only has 5 more players than Finland, and a lot of them are goalies. Like a lot of the Russian players are goalies in the NHL too.
Well, yeah, it's just
How many more points do you think the Russian players have scored this year in the NHL than the Finns?
Well, a lot because Kaprizov's hot again. So
yeah, it's 100 points. They have 100 more points than the Finns.
Yeah, I mean, there's no Finn that's lighting it up.
Only 5 more players.
That's what Laine's supposed to be that guy, and he can't stay healthy. So that's a shame actually because the Finns have really fallen behind while Mike's falling asleep. The Finns have really fallen behind offensively.
I think this is interesting.
That's not a commentary.
I find. I mean, I've always been, of course, as an American, like, remember I played in Canada, and got with the team that was an all-star team and got destroyed as a kid, So it's like against a C League team out of Sherbrooke.
Yeah, like Tony Soprano said, Rupe Hintz may be the top scoring guy, and you don't think of him first.
Yeah, I mean. So the 11 Swiss.
Oh, Rantanen would be higher scoring. That's true.
So there's 11 Swiss players and 7 German players, and I would have thought that maybe Germany would have had more points because like some of the German players are high point getters.
Yeah, but
the Swiss still have it.
It's not enough.
It's 152 to 100. There's 100 points by the 7 Germans. But that's still pretty good.
That's pretty good though, considering where German hockey has come.
It is. No.
I mean, again, listen, I'm going to tell you. I knew Draisaitl was going to be a great player, right? I hate anybody that they call the next Gretzky of any type of country or whatever. We used to hear that all the time for guys coming. But you know what? He's pretty damn close.
Yeah. I mean, and Canada has scored 1,000 more points in the U.S. this year.
Yeah.
Players, even though they have only
I blame Austin Matthews for that.
120 more players, but 1,000 more points.
If Matthews and Kreider were doing better, maybe,
Yeah. I mean, and also the fact that the goalies, the Canada has fewer goalies than ever before.
They do, which is, again, this is a development of like the last 5 years where all of a sudden, and again, I'm pretty sure remember when they put the import goalie ban on junior hockey? I think it was because they weren't, having enough Canadian goalies. So it created more jobs because they were losing some of those jobs because a lot of them weren't good enough.
No, you're absolutely right. That's
There's not a drop in goalies, but they're lucky at the high level. They still have some really great goalies, but overall, the U.S. has a better breadth of goalies.
Yeah, the young goalies coming up in the U.S. Definitely. And I don't know, is there any undrafted player from the U.S. right now besides, I guess maybe Kent Hughes, right? You're thinking Kent? No,
Kent Hughes is the one I named.
He was drafted, right? Yeah, he was drafted.
Kent Hughes is on Columbus. Undrafted is Adam Fantilli.
Kent Johnson.
Kent Johnson. Sorry, Kent Johnson. Now he got me saying Kent Hughes.
Too many Hugheses.
Yeah, too many
Americans. Fantilli's Canadian. So Americans.
Oh, he's right. He's Canadian.
They're doing the same thing. So, but Americans, undrafted Americans that could be on that Olympic team.
Yeah. Undrafted Americans.
It's 3 years from now, so
I know. I'm thinking like there's really good ones in this draft, but I don't think any of these guys will do it. So I don't think there's an undrafted. Do I think like a Logan Cooley could do it? Yes, I do.
Right.
Brock Faber.
No, I don't think Faber's good enough.
Yeah, Cooley's somebody.
How about Anthony D'Angelo?
No.
I didn't put him on the list, but
they had a South Philly team, sure.
Probably should. I mean, I don't know, point wise, but there's too many good defensemen on that team.
But I would say right now, I can't think of an undrafted American that I would put on that list because even one for 24 is almost too young. Like the U.S. usually doesn't go that young.
Right. Yeah, you're right. All right, so finally, I'll end with this. This is a fun statistic. Canada has 42% of the NHL players. 42% of the players are from Canada, and 27% are from the U.S.
Right.
What percentage of penalty minutes do Canadian players represent? So it's 42% of players. What percentage of penalty minutes do you think they represent?
60.
I'm going to say 48.
49. But 60, but it is, I'm so, those Canadian Goons, I just want to point out again, the Canadian Goons. Now, the funny thing is the U.S. also has a higher percentage than their 27. They have 28% of the penalty minutes. So, like, the Swedes are 10%, but only 7% of the penalty minutes. So it's interesting how, like, when you get to Europe, the European countries hardly have any penalty minutes at all. Like, the penalty minutes are definitely between the Canadians and the Americans. That's where your penalty minutes are coming in the NHL.
Did you mention Cale Makar?
I did, yeah, I did.
Okay. I just don't remember if I heard that.
I did, yeah. I went over them really fast because
yeah.
But
these are great teams. I mean,
yeah, I know. They're really great teams, and it's gonna be, to me, it's gonna be fun. And of course, we were all hoping to see this in 2 years in the World Cup of Hockey, but we're not going to see it. Although they are talking about doing the World Cup of Hockey I guess in 1 year we were hoping to see the World Cup of Hockey. Now in 2 years they're talking about a 2025 World Cup of Hockey.
They're talking about a 2024 Canada-U.S. tournament, sort of like a Summit Series type of thing.
Yeah, right. I think would be great. Obviously.
Summit Series without Russia.
But yeah, the Russia's. I think
Canada and the U.S.
They won't talk about the fact that Russia's the reason they won't. They
well, I mean, but like the Summit Series, was with Russia.
I know. But these are those were the two, but at that time those were the two best hockey powers in the world, and the U.S. and Canada are probably the two best hockey powers in the world now. Although it's debatable.
It is debatable. I mean, I think the U.S. is better. I don't know if I match them up in a game, how much better, because when you do have guys like Panarin and Kaprizov, and it's like, there's a lot of talent.
That's the thing about these type all-star situations you put up. There is only one puck. There's only one puck on the ice.
I know.
So that's like that. You're right that those the sum of the parts isn't always the same. Like it's like the best players are a big deal. Like, so if Panarin can be one of the top 5 players, then yeah, Russia's suddenly a force.
Yeah.
That's where it matters more than anything else.
Plus I named 2 young Russians that most likely would be on that team that are tremendous players. I mean,
yeah, right. And you got the guy coming up in this draft, right?
So
and Shostakovich, I always want to call him, but he's not Shostakovich.
No, Mishkov.
No, Mishkov is this draft.
Yes.
And then Miroshchenko was last draft.
Right. Yeah, I think. I mean, now you have heard the format they're talking about doing for the World Cup of Hockey in 2000?
No, go ahead, lay it on.
Okay, so this I talked to somebody about this because I was getting into this international thing. So in 2000, it was originally going to be 2024. Now it's going to be 2025. They're going to take 17 days off in February to do the World Cup of Hockey. Basically, like the same amount of time you would take off to do the Olympics, almost.
Well, in February's around All-Star game time. That's fine.
Yeah, so it's basically like you take like 25 days to do the Olympics. I think it is 17 days to do this, and there would be 10 teams, and some of the games will be played in Europe.
Yeah, it's true. By the way, we didn't even mention Kucherov, so yeah, he'll be on the. That's another.
Yeah, if he isn't suspended for cross-checking at that point.
No, I think it's fine. I don't mind the 17 days off. I like the World Cup of Hockey when I know that everybody's all in, but I'm a little worried about players being all in, and I think that's why it got canceled this time.
Yeah,
I think it got canceled mainly because of the Russian situation. But I think
honestly, if it's in February, I think it's a big mistake.
Why?
Why? Because I don't want to interrupt the NHL season.
I mean, it definitely is a major interruption in the NHL season.
Yeah, it's short month. Do it in September in lieu of training camp.
Hold on, though. It's a short month. You lose 4 days or 5 days normally, anyhow, with the All-Star game. It's not that big a deal.
Well, I'm not opposed to eliminating the All-Star game. That's fine.
Right, but I'm just saying, sucking up part of that time.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
If you can do it in 2 weeks, do it in one central location. But now they're talking about playing games in Europe and spreading it out. It's just. No.
The tricky thing about games in Europe is the European players that are playing in the NHL, right? The NHL players have to go to Europe and play in Europe, and then
right.
It'll be in Toronto again. We know it will.
They'll be partly in Toronto, but I think they're talking about I actually heard Toronto, Montreal, and New York or Boston. They're going to have it in different places, and they're going to try.
I could see Toronto, Montreal, New York. I could see all of that.
Yeah, I mean, and I think the
That's
idea
easy enough to get around, to get to. So
I
I
also
can
had
see
Toronto
that.
and Detroit. I also had the possibility of being Toronto and Detroit, which is another easy one to do because they're close enough, right? So I
Yeah.
mean, how long is it from Toronto to Detroit, Mike? Roughly?
Toronto to Detroit, four
Yeah.
4.5 hours.
Okay,
Yeah. Detroit would be good.
Yeah, that would be good. I think so too. I do like the idea of 10 teams. Although I didn't mind, they're not gonna have the under 23 North American team like they did before, which I liked. I thought was a lot of fun. I mean, people didn't like it. They thought
I loved it. I wish they would do it again.
I
They
did
don't
too.
want to do it again because these guys, especially now with the group coming, they will upstage some of the veterans.
And that came really close to happening in
I know.
Toronto. If it wasn't for like a couple goals and actually a bad Matt Murray goal,
Bad referee call, I remember.
a Matt Murray injury, was it a Matt Murray injury? He got injured, right? Because when Matt Murray was going with that under 23 team, that they were clicking.
Yeah.
But in John Gibson, he wasn't as good.
Yeah.
And Ekblad got hurt too.
Right. And in all my years of watching hockey, and this is what I leave on my last thoughts, is that North American team and the Oilers team that came into the Philly in the Stanley Cup Finals were the two teams that just were by far the most exciting teams to ever watch. Like that just changed everything to me. Like that looked different than everybody else. Like
I was so into it. Well, you could imagine. I shouldn't say you have no idea because everybody would imagine. But like I said, I felt like they got the short end of the stick on calls.
They
and
did
other things, and and then I knew it was doomed. Like I knew it would never happen again.
Yeah, because it did come close to embarrassing the older players. And you're right, and now I think that is even getting
that team, because you would mix countries, would have Bedard and Fantilli, and
right.
It would be unbelievable.
Right, and you still have like
And when you're playing against 35-year-olds and they've got to keep up with these 21-year-olds.
You'd have Jack Hughes. You'd have Jack Hughes on that team. You'd have Jack Hughes on that team.
So like 19, 20-year-olds, like come on.
It was crazy, yeah. I mean, think of the guys on that team.
Jack Hughes might still be on it. No, he won't be on. He'd be
23. I think that's because if they did the World Cup in 2 years, he would still be on it.
In 2 years, yeah, you're right. He'd be 23. He would still make it.
Yeah. So anyway, that's all the time we have for today, folks. But it was a fun show. We will get into this because we'll go line by line on Wednesday and see who really is better, who has the better team. It'll be kind of fun. And but remember, without the buzz, it is just hockey. We will talk to you all then. Talk to you tomorrow. Talk to you Tuesday. See ya.